Good morning, everyone. How are we? 2 sessions in and we're ready and rocking and rolling for the third. Let's give a shout out for our folks that are with us virtually. How about we'll clap our hands so we appreciate them and they're with us too. My name is Mary Malone. I'm the president of the Greater Hazleton Chamber of Commerce. And just a couple of reminders. Make sure that your cell phones are on silent. Make sure you're using that app. I do have my buddy over here, Vicky. If you have a question, I'm one of those people if I don't write it down, so you can actually ask the question during the speaking on the app, and then will moderate at the end of it. Don't forget your hashtag. Does anyone want to holler out what the hashtag for today is? Right, so if you take a picture, make sure you use the hashtag. I never use them right, but I'm going to try today. There is water in the back of the room for anyone. And again, just like at Disney, at the end of the program today, if you would look left and right, make sure you pick up your belongings. And there is a garbage can in the back of the room that you can drop it off on your way out. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Carol McMullen, who is the Vice President and Trust Officer at People Security Wealth Management Group. How about a warm round of applause for Carol?
Good morning. Again, my name is Carol McMullen. I'm a trust officer with People Security Wealth Management, and we are very, very pleased to be a sponsor of this wonderful event. And congratulations to the Chamber staff for once again doing just a phenomenal job in organizing this and marshaling us all around. Our speaker this morning is Lisa Moher. She is the North American Head, Distribution, Package, Engineering, and Graphics for Sanofi. Ms. Moher has over 17 years of experience in thermal engineering and is currently responsible for all packaging, engineering, and graphics for the Sanofi business units, which include Pharma, Pasteur, Genzyme, and Chatham. Ms. Moher is also the global subject matter expert of cold chain at Sanofi. Her experience encompasses thermal packaging design, engineering, and qualification for both domestic and international packaging solutions. Ms. Moher most recently has worked on COVID-19 vaccine thermal shipping solutions worldwide. She holds a bachelor's degree from Rochester Institute of Technology with a degree in packaging science. Now please join me in welcoming Lisa Moher.
Good morning. Thank you for that amazing welcome. So that was lovely. I am thankful to be here. It's been a long time for us all to be together, so this is very nice. I will try to make sure I stay in the area for our virtual friends, but I do kind of wander. It's the Italian in me with the hands. So Sanofi's big thing for this year, so it's our flavor of the year, is Play to Win. So it kind of falls in line with this conference. So I'm going to try to figure out how to best see my slides, and I'm going to try not to read off of them. A lot of them are going to be key bullets that you're going to hear, and then we're going to expand on. So who am I? And throughout this journey today, I want you to ask the same questions. I want us to all take something away from today. So while I'm introducing who I am, I want you to think about who you are. So we have the next 45 minutes for me to take you on a journey of who I am, my journey of embracing ambition, and the struggles and the blessings that came along the way. And I want you to think about your journey and where you want to take it next for you. So, I was born and raised in Syracuse, New York. I'm two children, so my mom and my dad came from Italy. My dad came when he was 8 years old. My mom came when she was 23 years old, all by herself. So back then, hopped on a plane, wanted something better, was educated in embroidery, and wanted more. Wanted to learn how to drive, wanted to not be told what to do, just wanted something different. So my dad travels with his family at 8 years old and grows up in the States, and my mom at 22, 23 hops on a plane and comes to the States. She meets my dad, she goes to night school, she works in a factory as a manager, shockingly, for a needle manufacturer that manufactures for pharmaceutical manufacturers. So somehow there was a little foreshadowing happening there. So I have an older brother. My family life hits a rocky path. My dad passes away when I'm 4, and my brother 9. Big smoker, ended up being diagnosed with lung cancer in October. November has surgery to remove his lung and goes into immediate coma and passes away the eve of New Year's Eve. So here's my mom, no family, 2 kids. She didn't know what to do. She didn't want to get up, but she had 2 kids. And how was she going to make 2 kids, no family work? So she ends up becoming the lunch lady at her Catholic school. And that's how she was able to have our schedule, always be with us. It was very rare we had a babysitter because she knew we needed that. How she put herself together, I have no idea. She's my hero, and you'll hear about her throughout this deck. So we have this single parent household. My mom finds out my dad was a heavy gambler and gambles the life insurance policy away. So she's really left to rebuild everything and these mounting bills. Somehow, she just persevered. And my brother and I just watched that tenacity. And we watched her learn who her village was, who the people were there when my dad was there, and who the people weren't there when my dad died. So she created these walls because she found out who her village was. So at a young age, I found out your village was critical, and it doesn't need to be blood. So throughout my journey, that will stick with me, and we'll talk a little bit about that. My education, so she became the lunch lady. So we went to Catholic school. We went for half price. In 6th grade, if you have the best grades, you could get a scholarship. I knew money was tight. In my head, I said, 2nd grade, 6th grade, I'm getting that scholarship, so my mom doesn't have to pay that. 6th grade comes along, I got that scholarship. I was a huge dreamer. Whatever I wanted, I was going to attain. I wanted to go to the all-boys prep school. It was still all boys, but I was determined. I was going to dress up as a boy and go to that all-boys school. Thankfully, 2 years before, it became co-ed. But all boys, so co-ed prep's Catholic school, so a version of Scranton Prep for those that are local. Tuition is ridiculous. So how's my mom on the lunch lady budget gonna get me there? I'm gonna get myself there. So academically, I read the dictionary, I read the encyclopedias, whatever I could do to get myself there, I was getting there. So I ended up with a 75% scholarship for all 6 years. So that's how I got myself there. Thankfully, dressed in girls' clothes. Subsequent to that, I had always known I wanted to be a doctor. I knew from grade 2, I'm gonna be a pediatrician. So I applied to about 8 schools. I get into all of them. NYU was my number 1. The reality of leaving the nest and being 4+ hours away from home sink in. And I'm like, maybe not. Maybe I need to be a little bit closer to home. Plus, I'm quite a crier, so when I ended up at RIT, I sobbed in the parking lot, I think, for like an hour after my mother left me. So I go to RIT, pre-med, biology major. 2.5 years in, I realize I partied like a rock star. That good Catholic girl all of a sudden was like, whoa! So yeah, couldn't tell mom that though. Girls. Shh. So we do that, and then I realize it's not about diagnosing colds or strep throat or an ear infection. I'm gonna diagnose kids that are sick and kids that I could lose. And again, I wear my heart on my sleeve. And the reality of having to tell a parent that their child has a horrible disease, it isn't in me. I can't pull myself out of that situation. I'm all in. So 2.5 years in, I say I'm out. I don't tell my mother. I decide I'm gonna go into accounting because at 15 I started working at Wegmans and did all the books. I did payroll, I did the books. I'm like, I can do accounting. I've been doing it for years. I was doing it at college. I transferred from Syracuse to the Rochester stores. No biggie. I was in a sorority. I had a sorority sister who's a pain in the rear end, who was like, go see packaging science. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. But she's the type of person that wouldn't leave you alone. So I'm like, fine, I'll go like talk to the dean. I'll audit a class, whatever. So I did. I didn't even audit a class. I talked to the dean, and I was just enchanted because I was able to get my management piece and also a little bit of engineering and knowing I could somehow tie myself into pharmaceuticals if I wanted to. So I go to the bookstore, I buy my books, I come home for break, and I say, hey, Mom, guess what? I'm not going to be a pediatrician anymore. I'm going to be a packaging engineer. And she did not believe me. And I was like, here's the book bill to prove it. And I think she was devastated, but then realized, you have to be happy. So she was fine with it. Break ended, I went back, on my merry way I went. So in order to graduate from RIT, you need to have a 6-month internship, 6-month paid internship. I was already behind in that I was 2.5 years bio. So I asked, can you make accommodations for me, and can I save my internship for last so that I can catch up on all those classes? They said yes. It doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to advocate for yourselves. You are your best advocate. You are your best salesperson. So I asked. It was granted. Lo and behold, my internship didn't even apply. Got an email from Santa Fe, well, at the time, Aventis Pasteur. Would you like to come intern for us? Okay, Scranton, Pennsylvania. I've driven through. 2 hours from home. Still need that little distance from home. Okay, totally in. So I go to intern, and we'll get into that. But along the way, a little bit more about me. I'm a wife, mom of 2 girls. I've been actually 19 years with Santa Fe in some way, shape, or form. You'll learn about that. And now that I've told you a little bit about me, I want you guys to think a little bit about you. So you kind of know a little bit about who I am. Who are you? So think about that today. Oh, I went really fast. This is click happy. All right, so let's talk about my journey. So we talked a little bit about it. I'm going to tell you about the path I jogged. So I'm going to talk to you in running terms. Listen, I'm not a runner. I've done the Girls on the Run 5K maybe like 7 times. Still not a runner. So my internship. So I arrive in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Now listen, I live in Syracuse, New York. I went to school in Rochester. Not a major metropolitan area, but shopping is key. So I get here, and there's Viewmont Mall. And I'm like, where's the rest of it? So I went home a lot to shop. And now I've gotten pretty good at online. So my internship, I literally get there. I'm totally not impressed at the facility I'm working in. I'm in the south side of Scranton. People are like, we'll walk you to your car. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm living in the Morgan Manor on the Morgan Highway, for any of you that know what I'm talking about. So I literally walk in, I'm handed a filing cabinet, and I'm told, here you go, read this and figure it out. And I'm like, what? They're like, that's your training. Read this and figure it out. So I'm like, okay. So back then I didn't have mom brain, and I could absorb a lot more, and I did. I sat there and I read and I read and I read. And I didn't understand a lot of it, so I asked a lot of questions. I asked who the contacts were to ask more questions. And that's how I learned. So, but then my boss finally shows up 3 days later, and I'm like, listen, this place is great. 6 months is my internship. I can't find Wegmans. When is my last day? And he said, how about you just give it a chance? And I'm like, okay, but really, like, when's my last day? And he's like, can you just try? And I'm like, all right, but where's Wegmans? So it took me actually a month to find Wegmans. I don't know why. I think I was in a little bit of a rut. So I get there, I read the filing cabinet. It's nothing I learned in school, like nothing. They don't teach cold chain thermal engineering at school. So back then, 20 years ago, nothing you learned. So you had to figure it out as you went. So Santa Fe had a contractor. They were paying him about $500,000 a year. And they flew him home every other weekend to Miami, and they housed him. He had the deal, like, of a lifetime. So they figured he was probably working the system and working Santa Fe projects and working his other customers' projects in our lab. So they were tired of paying him. They were tired of getting nowhere. And they said, can you learn what he does? And I said, okay, are you promising me a job after? And they said, we don't know yet, but can you figure it out? Okay. So here's me, 22, just asking, 20 million questions. In the meantime, building my little cold chain Bible. So I created a binder. I just started writing and creating notes so that if he wanted to go to Florida for a long weekend, I could do the test for him, no bother. So that's what it turned into. Oh, you want to go to Florida? Why don't you stay a couple extra days? I got it figured out. And that's what we did. So 6 months rolls around, and they're like, okay, we want to get rid of him and we want to hire you. And I'm like, okay, dollar signs. We can't find a job for you. There's no head count. So at 22, you're an intern. You don't really know what that means. So 3 jobs come up in Boston. And I said, I'm going to apply to these then. In the meantime, I met my now husband, and we were dating. He too worked for Aventus Pasteur. We were scandalous in that I was the intern and he was the transportation analyst. So we kept it low-key for a little while, so we thought. To the point where my boss at one point was like, you should date Brian. And I'm like, ew, he's like my brother. And then 2 weeks later, we go on a date. So needless to say, I said, listen, I'm going to apply to these 3 jobs. They're all great jobs. One was Welch's. Everyone knows Welch's. Let me make a phone call. So they make a phone call. Lisa, will you contract for us? I'm 22. I don't know what that means. Will you incorporate yourself? Again, I'm 22. I don't know what that means. What does that entail? So ultimately, I contracted through Manpower Professional. They nixed the contractor. I did not get the contractor's salary. Again, young, I didn't do my homework, and I was blind to what the offer was. So again, do your homework and fight for yourself. So it was all right. I didn't have health insurance. I told myself I was 22. It's okay. hindsight's 2020. Girls, health insurance is important. So, my path forward. So year one, career as a contractor. I end up managing interns. That's weird. I'm a contractor for Aventis managing interns. How does that work? So there's like that fine line. So, and no one gives you management training. You're just managing these kids and like kind of like, okay, I'm gonna treat you like I would wanna be treated because no one else told me how to treat you. So you figure it out as you go. In the meantime, I'm still not loving Scranton, so I'm going back and forth to Syracuse, New York. And I still kept my Wegmans job because where was this, I was smart enough to be like, where is this contract gonna take me? So I go back and work the weekends in the accounting office. Do that for a year. Aventis puts in a rule. After a year with Manpower, you're out. My year came. They were like, we can't keep you. And I'm like, what? I just bought a new car. Like, what? So we called it the pickle because I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, seriously now dating my boyfriend, who I think we're about to get engaged, and now I have a new car, and what am I doing? So I called my old boss. And this is when you save those favors for when you really need those favors. And he was at a subsidiary of Aventis, and I said, I'm in a pickle. I am done with Manpower, but they have no one to replace me. We're responding to an FDA 43. They can't figure out how to keep me. Let me make some phone calls, Lise. Within a day, Lisa, you're gonna contract for one of our vendors. It's unlimited until we can get you hired. Okay. And we increased your salary. Even better. And by the way, we're getting you health care, so your salary really didn't increase because it's going to health care. But you need health care. I'm like, yes, Dad. So year 2 and 3, I work for one of our vendors as a contractor. Life is good. My personal life's moving forward. I get engaged. Our company is bought out. Aventis gets bought out by Sanofi. What the heck does that mean? So, the path I sprinted. So, they find out all of the contractors are out the door. So what are you gonna do? I'm a contractor. They tell me, Lisa, take this job as an electrical engineer. Okay, packaging science, no electrical schematics. Only way I get my foot in the door, I'm engaged, my husband works for the company, what the heck am I gonna do? Okay, I'll figure it out. So, I figure it out. I'm not gonna tell you this part of my ambitious endeavor was fun and exciting. I probably cried half of the year I did it because I had buildings. I was responsible for turning on equipment in new buildings and signing off and redlining diagrams that I had no idea what I was doing. But at the same time, I would go home and study to figure out electrical engineering, to teach myself, to ensure that we kept the lights on and the FDA didn't come in and give us a consent decree and shut us down. It was painful, but it got my foot in the door. So that's where you have to decide, how willing are you to embrace ambition? How far will you go? So we went that far. In the meantime, I get married. We're planning a wedding from PA, the wedding's in Syracuse. So that was fun, especially since I had a groom that wanted to be in every part of the detail. We're still married. I then start to get interns and I start to manage them. Along the way, my boss that I loved gets promoted. He puts his director in play as acting director. Ladies and gentlemen, this man was such a male chauvinistic pig, and I found out I was pregnant, and I mean, at one point I thought I was gonna miscarry because he was so belittling. So I marched myself, I couldn't take it anymore. He did it in front of colleagues. He did it in front of my interns. It was just, you fought back. It still would get worse. So I walked into my old boss's office. I shut the door, and I said, listen, thank you for the roller coaster ride. I appreciate everything you've done for me since day one of being your intern. But I'm done. I quit. Actually, I didn't shut the door. Then he says, shut the door. So I shut the door, and he's like, what's going on? And I just told him. He's like, you are not going to tell anyone that you just quit. And I said, what? He's like, give me 24 hours. Okay, I'll give you 24 hours because I love you. I didn't even tell my husband I quit until I got home that night. And I was like, I might have just quit today. So it was just in the moment, and I was done. 24 hours later, Lisa, you're assigned to a new boss. No more electrical engineering. You're headed back to the Scranton Distribution Center, and you're doing what you love. What? It doesn't always work that way. But advocate. Fight for yourself. Speak up. No one should be belittled. No one should be treated like garbage. No one should have to endure it. No one should have to experience it in front of their peers. It's not okay. So management. I've been with the company, I told you, 19 years. 19 years, I've had 8 managers. It's been a wild ride. I've been bounced from department to department to department. Santa Fe Culture and Industrial Affairs, we reorg a lot. So I've had a lot of bosses. I will say in my past 9 years, I've only had 2. So it's been nice, and my past 2 have been wonderful. You win some, you lose some. So you heard about my dud earlier. I had 1 more after that. But fortunately, I've been blessed. So after I was shifted from my lovely manager that was so belittling to my new manager and my new role back in Taylor, my boss still sat in Swiftwater. He became my mentor. He was the first one to tell me, family first, work second. Stop juggling your baby and putting her second, family first. And I was like, oh. So the juggle happens. Baby number 2 arrives. Baby number 2 arrives, I take 12 weeks off. My contractor at the time, who was like my right-hand man, he basically covered both of my kids, and it was the only way I could have baby number 2 because there was no backup for me except this contractor, who I happened to know in college, came to work with me. He was like my work husband / little brother. Carried my purse for me. We had lunch every day. Pretty sure he fattened me up a little bit. But he was wonderful. And then I ordered cakes for the girls' birthdays, and they were all like garbage. So not what I ordered, I wasn't happy, and I'm like, I can do that. Let's have a side hustle. So I started a bakery for 1.5 years. Babies, work, bakery. I don't know what I was thinking. I started to go a little mad, and I'm a perfectionist, so I'm pretty sure, not sure how my husband didn't divorce me at that time, because every time something wasn't perfect, I was like, oh my God, and full-on meltdown. I'm sure I should have had a full-on tantrum on the floor. I now know where my youngest gets it. So the side hustle was great. I loved creating. It was an outlet for me, but then it wasn't fun because then it was the stress. Then it was I was missing the weekends with the kids. Then it was I was missing birthday parties. And then I was like, what am I doing this for? I'm missing key moments in their life. So is the side hustle worth it? Am I gonna open a bakery or am I gonna be an engineer? Which is it? So I decided I'm gonna be an engineer. So managing now an intern, I'm back to the office, I'm managing an intern and a contractor. Life is pretty good. We start to harmonize our business units. So Santa Fe keeps buying and buying and buying companies. So in order to do that, be effective and be one Santa Fe, We need to start harmonizing and like shedding some of the dead weight. So I'm all in. And that's key to embracing ambition, because you putting your foot forward before someone tells you to put your foot forward, that's not embracing ambition. And people are paying attention to that. I'm always looking at my reports, waiting for them to ask me what's next, or not asking me what's next, but telling me what's next. I don't want you to ask me what's next. I want you to tell me what's next. You've been here long enough. Like, I shouldn't have to hold your hand. So the dark hole. Everything's great. Future's bright. New innovations and designs in the lab. I'm making a play now to go to the parent company. I want out of Pasteur. My dream all along was, so here's the dreamer, I want to be the global subject matter for Sanofi Pasteur in cold chain engineering. I didn't move in my organization. I just stayed flat. I kept moving to different managers, but I stayed flat. It didn't matter what I did, because I was out of sight, out of mind, I stayed flat. So I needed out, because I needed to grow. I wanted to be that global subject matter expert. So everything's going well, starting to like make hints that I want to go over to the parent company. Labor Day 2011 happens. So I get rid of the side hustle of the cake business, but I decide, hey, let's coach like kids soccer. So I'm coaching kids soccer. Let's be the Girl Scout co-leader. Why not? So I'm balancing that. And then tragedy strikes. My contractor, my very dear friend, close confidant, little brother, work husband, goes on a bachelor party weekend, and there's a tragic accident. And I remember texting him that morning, look at us at soccer, my first game, and him saying, I'm so proud of you. Kids look great, look at you, coach, knock them dead. That was my last communication. The next morning, my phone rings as I'm feeding the baby, and I see it's Brian's mom, and I just know. I know there's an accident. I don't know how bad that accident is, but I know. And I answer, and she tells me Brian was killed. And just a freak accident, hit by 2 cars. They both hit and run and left the scene. And I just fell apart. I didn't believe it. How does that happen? He was like my shining star. The running joke was, when he was rich and famous, I'd be a secretary. Not gonna lie, I wasn't kidding. So I now have the job of going into the office on Labor Day, because we're still working, to inform everyone. So I sob. They actually thought, so my husband's a Brian too. They thought my husband has worked with them, so they actually thought I was telling them my husband died. And I was like, no, but my other one did. It hit me hard. It broke a piece of me. And I wanted to put myself in a box in all our projects and shelf them. And I don't think I realized what it did to me yet. So I kept going on with my life. They had a grief counselor come in. It's the girl's first day of school. I don't need a grief counselor. I'll deal with this. Like, I dealt with my dad dying. I got this. So in the meantime, my play for Sanofi kind of gets a little stunted by this news. But like I told you, I'm out of sight, I'm out of mind, I'm not getting any recognition. I designed an entire shipping container line that I cut in pieces and glued and put together that no one's ever done in the organization. Nada. Crickets. So now I'm like, screw it. Brian died, life is short, I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fight for what Brian and I should have had. So I make a play. I call one of the managers and I say, I want into Sanofi. How do I get in? And she said, we were told you weren't interested. We wanted you. I'm sorry, what? And I said, I don't know who told you that. And I guess right now I don't even want to know, because chances are I'm going to have to still work with that person. But I want in, and I want in now. 2 weeks later, I transfer over, so I start the new year in Santa Fe. So again, you have to fight for what you want. No one else knows what you want. You need to embrace your ambition, and you need to take control of your journey. I find out something's off. I have paresthesia in my face, paresthesia in my tongue, paresthesia in my leg. So for you guys that don't know, numb, tingling, something's wrong. I work with a lot of MS drugs. I wear gloves, but did I touch something? Did somehow I ingest something? I'm emotional. I'm crying like a baby. I grew some thick skin at Santa Fe where I had to advocate to get hired. So that crying girl kind of like went back in the closet. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? So my doctor says, I think you gotta go to therapy. And for the longest time, I'm like, no. And then one day I was like, I need to go to therapy. So I schedule a therapy appointment. In the meantime, I can't feel my leg and my face goes numb. So my husband drives back from the Poconos and rushes me to the emergency room. And they find out I have a brain aneurysm. And I couldn't go in the MRA because I'm claustrophobic, so they heavily sedated me. And I literally roll over as the emergency room doctor comes in to say, you have a brain aneurysm. I'm like, okay. Like, no big deal. He's not making a big deal out of it. He's probably like, it's congenital, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, we now know what's wrong with me. Walk out. Husband and I are like, okay, we have a diagnosis. 2 days later, I'm sitting at the office, and my GP calls and is like, you need to get to the neurologist ASAP. And I'm like, wait, like, the emergency room doctor said I'd be fine, da 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 da. So now, tears again. So thankfully, I had my therapy appointment that night and went over all of my symptoms with her, and she was like, I think you need to be medicated. I think we need to get your, your levels up. And I was just like, I don't do drugs. I didn't take Tylenol when I had the girls. I didn't take antacids. I'm not a drug person. No, I'm good. I work for a pharma company, really. So I said no. She told me to start walking. It's winter. I'm walking at 4 a.m. on February mornings. Finally, it's not enough. I'm like, okay, give me the drugs. So they gave me something. I had an allergic reaction. So at 2 a.m., my core of my body is on fire. And I'm shaking. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like gonna die. So God love my husband. He was like my rock. He's like, we will get through this. So they were like, you had an allergic reaction. So try another drug. Then I'm like, that didn't work. And then I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna walk again. Forget the drugs. Should have stuck with what I wanted to do. Walking still didn't do it. Finally, my GP says, let's try this. I'm like, oh, okay. I went to therapy. I would go to therapy every week. I did it for 9 months. There were days I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to go talk about. You find stuff to talk about. I actually love her and miss her. But life got in the way, and one day I walked in, and 7 days into like my new medicine, she was like, you're different. Why are you different? And I was like, oh, the GP and the neurologist, they decided, let's try this. I feel great. And she was like, I think you're like getting your life back together. So my spiral downhill, where I really just didn't think I would ever crawl out of. I mean, I couldn't even take care of my kids. So here I had a 1.5-year-old and a 4-year-old. I couldn't take care of them. I'd come home, I looked at my 4-year-old, and I sobbed. Because all I saw was the 4-year-old that I was when my dad died. And I did not want my kids to walk through the shoes that I did. And I didn't want my husband to walk through the shoes that my mom did. And I had to figure out, you've got to get your shit together. So the only place I functioned was at work. Thank God I had management that was amazing at that time. They threw everything at me. Hey, you want to go design a new open concept? Sure. I have no idea what I'm doing. Why not? Let's be an interior decorator. Your management will not throw anything at you that they think you can't do. And you can't say no to it because that's embracing ambition. You're showing how well-rounded you can be. I'm thankful for that time where I designed 2 open concept offices that had nothing to do with engineering. I'm thankful for them saying, those projects you shelved with Brian for a few years, you need to take them off the shelf, Lisa. You need to finish those projects for Brian. So, as I did that, I just kept growing up the corporate ladder. So, my walls, I just told you, came crashing down. I started to teach religion. I went to Catholic school. I figured, why not? Who wants to go at Sunday morning? Became a PTA mom, and then I started to let people in. My walls were shattered. My teacup was broken. I needed my friends to super glue me back together. So I clawed my way out. I threw myself into my work. I began to be transparent. I told my manager, I told my VP, I have a brain aneurysm. And you know what he said to me? My son, he has an aortic aneurysm. He's 8. It was the kick in the teeth I needed. Every one of us in this room has a story. We need to remember that. So I have my story. Why do I have to have a pity party for myself? Get up, get your shit together, and let's go. So that kick in the teeth was amazing. And in the meantime, my VP was like, I love how transparent you are. I'm going to get you a mentor. I got lucky. I got the VP of HR, global VP of HR. Told her my story, cried in her office. She said, Lisa, we all have a story. I'm like, I know. And she said, why do you think you're here? And I'm like, well, I'm here because sometimes I like to send 2-page emails because, I just like to vet it all out. She's like, do you think they're reading after the first 3 sentences? I'm like, no. She's like, why are you sending 2-page emails? Okay. Then she said, why else are you here? I'm like, I'm really emotional. Like, I can't take it when people give it back and are wrong and da-da-da-da and won't listen. And so I want to be Teresa from the Real Housewives and flip that table. And she's like, okay, you can't do that. So I said, all right. She's like, you need people to tell you you're good. The work you do is good. She's like, you want to be a people pleaser. So she said, you don't need to prove yourself. You've proved it. Every time you've grown in this organization, you've proved it. They've given you those special projects. They believe in you. You're here with a mentor for a reason. They don't just hand them out. They don't hand these coaches out. So she's like, we need a mantra. What's your mantra? What's your happy place? I'm like, on the beach. She's like, you deserve to be here. You need to tell yourself that when you're caught up in the moment of where you want to flip that table, where you want to lose your mind, and where you feel you're not good enough. You need a mantra. Okay. Sunny, happy place. I deserve to be here. That became a little laminated thing on the corner of my computer. And on days where it got crazy, I looked in that left-hand corner on my monitor, sunny, happy place, I deserve to be here. Find your mantra. Remind yourself, you are good enough. You are here for a reason. You want to embrace ambition, you need to believe in yourself. In order to believe in yourself, do what you need to do to have that reminder present always when self-doubt kicks in. We can be our worst enemies. So, big thing, acknowledgement. Anxiety and panic are real. It took a long time to get there. It took a long time for me to realize mental health is real. If I was diabetic or high blood pressure, I'd need a pill. It's okay to have to take a pill for panic and anxiety. This stigma of it's not okay is not okay. It's okay to have this. Did I have this when I was a child? No, I got up and read in church and was in the play and singing, and it happens. Did I ever think it would happen to me? Never. But trauma happens, and it comes out in different ways. And for me, it became speaking in public. It became talking at a meeting. Anxiety and panic are real. I recognized I had an aneurysm. Okay, it's a gift. I know it's there. We watch it. Okay, we've got to not dwell on it and live on it. So I redefined my village. I surrounded myself with those that would be through me through the thick and thin. When I got diagnosed with my aneurysm, it was like the parting of the seas. People are either there or they weren't. And then you're all of a sudden like, wait a minute. So I redefined my village. I surrounded those that would bring me up, always, and not bring me down. I surrounded myself with people that would go into a fire with me and fight the fire. You want those people. You want those people that will go into the fire and fight the fire with you, not watch or not set the fire. Think about that. Think about your villages. And I've decided to accept things and slow down, hence my rose. Stop and smell the roses. Life is short. So, path I walked today, I rebuilt my wall. It's halfway up. I don't want it all the way up, but I want it halfway up. I got to protect myself. I have work-life balance. I slow down and breathe. I enjoy my kids. I advocate for the career path. I have a moral compass. I fight for what I believe in. I don't care if you agree or you agree. But if I think it's wrong, I'm fighting for it. I'm fighting for the greater good. I'm not fighting for, let's say, my child XYZ. I'm fighting for all the kids. Transparency is key. You have to be open and honest in order to get what you want in life. You need to understand your audience. If I'm emailing my VP, I'm not sending my 2-page email. I'm sending him 2 sentences. Quick and to the point. I'm to the point where I need quick and to the point now too. Step outside your comfort zone, guys. I designed an office space. I designed one in Atlanta and one in Scranton. It was fun. And it breaks the monotony and makes you a well-rounded person. Advocate for the future, okay? This is our life right now, but we have the future in front of us. Help them. Set their path up for them. Don't be a yes person. So I'm not. I will never say yes to say yes. Like, if I believe in it, it's a different story. But don't say yes because that's what everybody's doing. Shake it up. I've been 9 years with a parent company. I've been a manager, an associate director, a director, a head of North America. I've been published twice. I had a recent job offer with BARDA, Health and Human Services for the government. I entertained it. I couldn't believe I thought I would leave Sanofi. But after I found out about the job, more money, great visibility, I turned it down because I was going to be silenced. I would make my subject matter expert recommendations, and then I would be silenced. I wouldn't be able to fight for if they disagreed. That's not who I am. Who knows, maybe in 10 years that's who I am, but I got a lot of fight left in me. So think about what you guys want. So ambition is drive. What drives me is my family, my moral compass, money, passion, pride, my lifestyle. I'm a dreamer. I want happiness, and I love to challenge. This slide I think is awesome. This is ambition, because you do feed off of that adrenaline. So think about it. What drives you? Today, what drives you? Leave here thinking about that. So, how ambitious are you? This is the curse of ambition. So I told you why I'm here today, but I'm here for another reason. Along the way, I've talked to you about my career. It's not been a smooth road travel. There's potholes, there's bumps, there's detours, accidents along the way. What you choose to do with your roadblocks along the way will pave the way for your future, okay? My journey has definitely had some rough patches, but I found myself asking, what do I want to do with my life? And I want to do what makes me happy and makes my family happy and makes their future happy. No one is handed a silver platter, but don't go throwing a silver platter to save yourself. So don't throw people under the bus. We don't want to be these people. We're human. It's okay to make mistakes. We learn from them. But God, own them. It's okay. We're human. The world is your oyster. Go and grab the pearl. I tell my CCD kids, heck, go for the diamond. Challenge yourself. Let's try to raise people up, not tear them down. Remember, we all have a story. We all have a story. We all have a history. Now in next steps, so not only while I'm here today, what I've told you, I also want to learn from you guys today. I want to learn and add more tools to my toolkit. You may not know the answer to the questions I asked today. It may take time. Listen, I was told, what do you want to be when you grow up, like a million times at Santa Fe? And I was like, well, if I really tell you. And it took me 10 years, and finally I was like, this is what I want to be. So you might not know today, but think about it. Why are you here today? What is your path? What do you guys want in life? Think about those questions. A question that was asked, this is how, during a call with Santa Fe and Junior Achievement, is if you could tell a younger version of you, what would it be? I said I would challenge the status quo in my everyday. What did I tell you guys? Advocate, advocate, advocate. Make a difference. Push people beyond their limits. Push your people. Let them fly. And if they're going to fall, be there to pick them up, not beat them up. Step outside the box. Ask questions. Keep learning. Never stop. Ask yourself, what's the right thing to do? What is the morally right thing to do? Life goes by quickly. Do right by the now. Do right by the moment. Love what you do. Embrace diversity. Go all in. Be creative. Be bold. And shake the future. They're what is going to lead us. The most important people are the people that are with you and stay with you on the journey. These are my girls. They're the most important people to me. They're with me and they stay with me on the journey. They're even here today with my other daughter. But that's really everything. And then I missed a slide, but I want you guys to all think about this before I close out. This is kintsugi. Some of you may know or may not. It's golden mend. So basically, the Japanese have a theory. If you break a piece of pottery, you don't throw it away. You mend it with gold, and it becomes something beautiful. Perfection is so overrated. Stop trying to be perfect. If we were all perfect, we would be so boring. What kind of world would we live in? Remember that feedback is constructive criticism. It's a gift. Sometimes it sucks. Listen, take it. What you do with it next will help pave your future, and you're embracing your journey. Remember again, everyone has a story. We're all broken in certain ways, but when you put us back together, healing is beautiful. That's it. Thank you. Sorry.